Welcome to the Blox Podcast, episode 25. And on today's show, we're week 7 of the lockdowns, and we're actually going to move away from most of the business subsidies and JobKeeper, and we're actually going to discuss strategic planning and creating a purpose for your business. As always, I'm joined by Dale. How's things, Dale?
Well, locking down Dan Andrews is completely insane. I think everyone's worked that out, and we're just moving forward now. I think it's time to move on from the Corona stuff. 2 more weeks, as they say, or 3 more weeks, and we should be out of it. A few tweaks around how they're doing things at the moment. A few promises for additional funding. A few potential changes to tax rates in the new year. But other than that, we want to get back to business.
So we're all good with JobKeeper, all that type of thing. That's all signed off on, same as the last few weeks.
JobKeeper hasn't had any real changes. Still going with the additional stuff. There's been some back and forth with the state and the federal governments about who should pay for the funding of the additional lockdown. That the state governments are saying that the federal should pay for it. Federal is saying that they're paying enough through the JobKeeper provision and the Job Seeker provision. So I think we may see another $5,000 to $10,000 state grant that gets announced. There's been a few tweaks around the ways in which business can conduct. So there was an extension to the trading whilst insolvent laws, which means that any business can continue to trade even though they know they cannot repay their bills. Before that, if you did that, you would become personally liable for any of the debt that you incur. That's been pushed out to Christmas. So that was a big hurdle that people were sort of talking about that's coming up at the end of September. So now that's not going to come into 31st of December. Other than that, there was an extension to the eviction laws for commercial businesses. Can't be evicted for another 3 months, I think.
Towards the end of the year, the same.
Yeah, so they're just sort of kicking the can down the road at the moment and hoping for the best. Everything else seems to be as it was. A few more people are rolling into JobKeeper. And other than that, we're just moving forward with starting up our new venture.
And we did have a question. We can sign people up to JobKeeper if they fall under the threshold in October. There's still ability to join?
Yes. Yeah, you can still do that. So there'll be a reassessment period. So every month compared to the previous month, if you have a 30% drop in sales, you can go into the JobKeeper system. So we had a few clients in August who experienced a big drop because of the secondary lockdown. And what happened is they then go into the JobKeeper for the September quarter. So they get paid, September month. So they get paid at the end of September for registering at the start of September. So, and same rollout every single month until the end of the year. I do believe that when it goes to the next period, it may be quarterly, but I'd have to re-review that because I haven't looked at it since they rolled it out. But it's either a monthly drop of 30% or a quarterly drop of 30% gets you into JobKeeper, and then you just keep it until the end of the quarter, and then you reassess at the end of the quarter.
Right, yeah. So it's a quarterly basis now. And what are you expecting with... Now we've been pushed back for normal trading is not going to be around till at least October. How is that going to affect going into Christmas? Are you going to see businesses fold after Christmas or?
A lot more, yeah. So if the people who haven't made any push to either do deliveries or online or some form of trading that sort of kept coming through the door, I can't see a bricks and mortar business existing after 7 to 8 months of no income and then moving into trading again. It would make more sense that they just tip it in and try to start again. There may be issues around the personal liability for the rent, but it's just a big ask. So, a restaurant who hasn't opened, we have a few of them since March. I don't see the road back. I can't see how that they can assume all that debt and then have effectively what is a relaunch of the business and then trade on it is like it's normal. It's just hanging a lot of debt around the neck of the business. So I think the same will happen in retail. October is a huge month for Christmas sales. We're already talking about writing off half of October. If I'm not online, I'm not getting access to those Christmas sales, so I'm in real trouble at the moment. I think that those kind of businesses may just continue to collect the JobKeeper like everyone else is. They've kicked the insolvency laws down the road, so there's nothing to lose by just sitting there collecting JobKeeper and letting your debts build up, basically. So I think that's what a lot of people will be doing. They've kicked up what they estimate to be the jobless rate. They're talking 10%, now it's pushing up to about 12% as a result of the additional lockdown. I think the same with closures of businesses. We were talking 10%. Now we're probably talking maybe 12 to 15% of businesses that will close.
Are they Victorian stats or are they national?
Only deal with Victoria, mate. That's the only place that counts here. So Victoria, they do say Victoria is dragging the rest of the economy down. Sydney is having a tough time of it. And everywhere else is just sort of, moseying through. Yeah, so it's coming. So banks are also saying that the drops are going to come mid next year. So once everything, so they always push the estimate of the drop to be when everything gets pulled away. So if the bank, if the government continue to extend funding for businesses, I think we can see that the date of the drop continuing to go down the road. But if a shop hasn't opened their doors in the last 6 months, they're just collecting JobKeeper until they close the doors. That's really what they're doing. A lot of businesses are still struggling. It's very hard to shift online in a very short time and get exposure, and work out how to sell online when you've never done it before. So it's tough times.
Yeah, well, there's online, the businesses that have moved online, they've just looked at their commercial property and they're like, well, that's the end of this. If they've been successful online, they're going to operate either out of a known frontage rental place or work straight out of home. Commercial rentals getting a double edge. People aren't paying and then people are leaving for better options.
There was a lot of businesses in the Lygon Street sort of South Yarra area that were talking about the exorbitant rents that they've been paying for years on an area that's been slowly dying, and now they're not getting any assistance from the landlords. They've all effectively just put up their hands and say, we can't afford this kind of money. The area doesn't justify the means. So there's now a clash. They're trying to renegotiate to get the rents brought down to get that long-term stability. The landlords don't want to bring it down. So if there's any give and take on that, we might see a result. If not, I think a lot of them will just say, this isn't working anymore. I can put 20 grand a month into advertising and get twice as much exposure without the risk. So, why don't I just do that? And I can set up a factory at the back of Dandenong if I need to.
And then that South Yarra space becomes residential, does it? Eventually?
Yeah, a bit, I think so. I don't see. I see the death of shopping strips in a sort of South Yarra area. I think they'll become residential. They'll get knocked down. They'll make apartments. You'll have food at the bottom at a most, and the rest will be housing.
Yeah, a lot of Europe does that. A lot of apartment blocks are shops in the basement and 10 or 12 stories of apartments. So we'll see how that sort of evolves. But moving more on a positive sort of into new beginnings and new businesses. We're working through a strategic plan over the last week. You just want to run us through what was involved in that and how you normally work when you have a new customer come up with either a business idea or their early trading. how you go about your strategic planning?
So effectively what that is, it's just setting out, what the next few years of a business are going to look like and just breaking it down into sections. We do it a little bit different where we don't focus on the result of what we're doing. It's more about sort of the why of what we're doing things and sort of why you're offering what you do to a customer. So, for us, for example, it's like, what was the main reason behind us creating a business that helped people with their businesses, and it was so what we come back to was that there's a lot of lack of understanding around accounting and bookkeeping and just the processing of everything that's back office, that the people either don't have the time to get their head around, don't have the want to get their head around, or can't really understand what it's all about. So it's saying that the why for us is to sort of bridge that gap. It's not about doing the job. So if you take that different approach in how you look at why you do things, you sort of, everything you do from that point on gets written at a different, from a different angle, in that you're writing it from the perspective of, what's specific to you, what's your brand about, what's your business all about, and then you build the systems off of that. So we started going through the plan. We started looking at how we worked with customers, why customers come to us, what we think the main problems were with customers, and then we spelt that out, and we moved on through to create more of an offering of how we're going to roll things out, and the stages of how that can sort of happen.
Yeah. So we set a target, a very ambitious target in 5 years, which I think for me that really set us up to, you get your head around, okay, that this isn't, we're not going to plug along, we're really going to aim for something, and it really opens your eyes that there is potential to get there, because the next stage is you chunk it down, you put it into a year. What's the first year going to look like? And then what's the first few quarters going to look like? And what are you going to do exactly during that time? Always coming back to that why, or the purpose of the operation of the business, not necessarily just all about what tasks are involved.
Yeah. I think it was interesting that as we played with that end target, how the amount of resources changed dramatically. So if the bigger we wanted to go at the end, it sort of really shortened down the time frames of getting things up and running, and the amount of people and the amount of resources and the amount of time that needed to be put into things. So, there's a lot of work to do in setting up a business. There's a lot of work to do in setting up a bunch of internal processes. You can skip on a few, you can sort of fake it till you make it on a certain bunch of things, but there's a fundamental list of actions and presentations and tasks that need to be done. And it was surprising, how much we really, how much we've still got left to do. We've got a ton of work to do, and in a relatively short time frame. And it's not setting it probably is a big target, but it's not unrealistic target, and that's the real thing. So it's an achievable target, and I'm sure a lot of people have done it before, but the constant growth demands of you constant work and constant working on the business. And I think that's the thing that the strategic plan brought out, that I can do the same thing over 10 to 20 years, but that slow ramp up growth means that I don't have to commit the resources as I go. If I want that quick growth, it's like coming out with what happens, when those people get all their money off people for nothing,
the venture capitalist.
Yeah, venture capitalists. So I can see that how the additional money gets spent in a lot shorter time frame, rather than that slow build of where you spend your own capital and you only spend the profit of what you're getting over let's say 5 years. So let's say you aim to make $1 million turnover over, I don't know, so after 5 years, you'd probably say that the profit on that would probably be about 300,000 to 400,000. Most people want to draw a significant wage, so they pull out a bunch of expenses. So it probably leaves about 200,000-ish left to grow the business, and that's probably a high amount. So 200,000 per year if you need someone who's going to be heavy on advertising, heavy on systems, heavy on management isn't a lot of money, and it doesn't go very far. So it's really, you need to commit a lot to the business, and you need to take away, and if you can put in that 400,000 or that 300,000, the ramp up is just a lot quicker. So it's getting those key people on board. We worked out we would get them on as a sort of a part-time basis, or as a full-time job split between different areas, and then look to get that sort of rolling quickly. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes, whether that's achievable, and whether we can keep that momentum, because I think that's going to be the biggest issue, is keeping the momentum.
Right. So do you just want to break down the process that we followed? So we created the purpose, come up with some people say mission statement, the story behind the business of why we're operating, and then from there we created that longer term goal to just frame and get in the right mindset of what we're doing, and not just putting a very low level goal and not actually looking into the future. So by setting that large target, we set that, and we were then able to look at a 1 year and what level we need to be at 1 year, 2 years, and leading up until the 5-year target.
Yeah. And it was we started going month by month, setting out what we did and why, on top of who we work for and why, and then the ideal client base, I think built the bones to what the business is going to be at. We didn't touch on things that we were offering. We didn't touch on advertising techniques. We didn't touch on specific branding concepts, but it was more just a general discussion around about what is the bare bones of what we do? Why is it that we do it? And if you can come back to a pure understanding of what you do, I think it does help. And for us to say that the reason why we think we will be successful is because we want to provide a simple, understandable, easy to use service that doesn't go into the more technical side of things, I think offered us a point of difference, and something that was really tailored to the problems that we find with customers. So every time we take on a new customer, we're always finding that there's an upskill problem that we have to deal with. We have to educate them about the accounting system. So it moved us away from trying to educate to saying, okay, why don't we just remove that problem altogether? Let's assume the responsibility for it and educate them in the understanding areas of it, rather than having to teach them the full back office of it. So it created an additional layer to the business and an additional aspect to what we're going to do, rather than just doing the job. And it also gave us a clear focus of how everyone in the organisation is going to present the business. So we're all going to present the business in that we assume responsibility for the work, but we'll train you at a top level. It's a basic understanding that if you set early, can be written through everything you do. You then take that and you start to write a plan that rolls that out. So you start to look at, that first 3-month period as to what steps you need to get in place to get to roll out, to get to public offering. And then we did very broad ideas like need to develop a specific marketing plan for a period of time. At this point, we need to look back and review the effectiveness of that marketing plan at this point. So very, very broad aspects, very, very broad tasks, but it just sort of hit very key milestones that in order us to keep ramping up. So is our advertising working? Yep. Okay, we've got to get to this by this point. We need to review it by this point. We've got to keep moving forward. And that's sort of key to the plan, that it does keep you moving forward, and it does keep you moving forward at a pretty fast pace.
Yes, and the goals were as simple. They were yes or no. At the end of the quarter, we can say this is done, yes or no. It's not ambiguous if the target was met, if it wasn't. I think too many times you get goals that are too broad, and you can sort of say they've been half done, and then you can fudge your way. You can feel like, oh yeah, I've done enough of that. But these goals are set out that are clear, that it's either this is done or this is not done. Tick or across.
They were building blocks. So they were fundamental blocks that needed to be put in place in order to get to the next step. And there's a bunch of things that we're trying to build early that are going to help us get to that next sort of level. So we want to build the systems. We want to build the job descriptions. We want to build the roles. We want to build the positions, and then have them work independently. So you've got a structure you can build the business on. If you don't build that, you sort of end up just rolling into, grabbing everything from everywhere, trying to keep things rolling. So we should be able to move away from the advertising marketing thing within about 5 to 6 months, because we've set up a process that allows that to ramp off. So we've set up a process that allows our internal systems to ramp off. We've set up a process that allows our internal processing and onboarding to ramp off. So it's getting all of those processes and deadlines behind getting them done. It's either done or it's not done. If it's not done, get it done. So getting all that in place builds up the base and the building blocks and the business blocks and whatever block you want to call it to then build your business on. So you've got to have them, and then you have individual people build on top of that. And that's we did a very, very basic plan. There was no real detail. There's going to be plans in the plans in the plans in the plans. But it was basically just this day, this launches, all these need to be done. This can be put off till after launch date, so we need it done here. So yeah, a very challenging time frame, I think it will be. Even though it is a long one, it's still very challenging.
Yes, and I found that certainly when we've found with sole traders, bouncing it off with a professional to ask particular questions is key in your planning stage, because doing it alone, you're only going to get one point of view. You're going to miss a lot of things, and that's just natural. It's not a reflection on the business owner or someone created. But by running through the whole planning process with someone else, they can come from left field and question different areas that you haven't particularly thought of.
Yep. Yeah, and that was another thing that I liked that came of our planning. I could see that the explosion in the information in a certain area by bringing on a professional for that area. So rather than, it's going to be us for the first couple of months getting things rolling. And then that point where I bring on someone specific to the role, be it advertising, be it systems, be it bookkeeping, I can really, I hope that they then take on the role and take it to somewhere that I've never thought about, because that's not my expertise. And getting them sooner rather than later became more of a priority once we planned that out. So, I mean, the same thing with the bookkeeping, with the professional. The professionals can see when you need to bring on people earlier and the difference that can make to your growth. So getting something that will grow quickly and will grow at a pace that is a bit outside of what you think is achievable needs input from people who know things that you don't. And that's probably one of the good takeaways I think we got from the plan.
Yes, and once that team member you can teach that team member the purpose, behind the business, they can then run and always still have that in the back of their mind with clear direction. You don't need to be doing things if you've got the team members following your original purpose and direction of the business. Things just can grow very quickly. So now we've got this first stage in place, and what we'll talk about next week, again, we're just flowing off the purpose of the business. We created our core offerings and core services, and by using the purpose, we could easily identify if the core offerings fitted in with our purpose. We didn't list out services that weren't in line with what we would achieve and what would actually come back to the original target of the whole thing.
Even the language around those services gets written based on that original purpose. So it is a cohesive approach to everything, and that's what I think a well-planned rollout is. It's a cohesive it's a cohesive idea that you've got to get input on, because if you get it wrong from the start, you're going to build just everything on something that's wrong. I'm prepared to wear the brunt of that if I do get it wrong, but the more people you talk to, the better. And I know that we've probably spoken to 3 or 4 people at the moment. We've got a variety of opinions, and I think we're onto something good.
Yeah, and again, you can pivot if the market isn't the exact fit. You can pivot from there and maybe redefine things and move quickly. So next week we'll cover off core offerings. Hopefully the Victorian government might have new grants by then, but hopefully you can spend mainly most of the time continuing through this process and stick off anything COVID related. I think there's plenty of COVID depression going around, and
it's a good time. So at the end of this, there will be people who are moving for whatever reason, be it that they don't feel that they have. They're going to reassess the value that they get everywhere. So you want to be in that area where you're adding additional value, or you're adding services that people aren't, or you've got a different sort of point of view. So we're sort of keying ourselves up to that. Other people can do the same thing. Other people can, follow along, roll something out at the end of it, because there will be opportunity at the end of this. You will always have the strong will survive, the weak will fall. It's the way business always works. It's just a more extreme time at the moment. So reassess, run through it with your own business, run through everything, rebuild you're sitting at home, you're getting the JobKeeper, give it a shot. What can it hurt?
Yeah, every business is your competitor, and everyone's reassessing exactly what they're doing now. So it's an interesting time. The builders will win out from this period. If you can keep your mental health and stay focused and not get too down, it can be potentially a big opportunity.
So what I've sort of worked out through this whole COVID thing is be better than you were last week. So if you can be one thing better than you were last week, in 10 weeks you'll be 10 things better than you were last week. It's a simple philosophy that works. So just do one thing that's different and keep doing that. Do that with your business. Fix one thing. So the front door was broken or squeaking, fix that. That's one thing, That's as simple as it can be. And then over a year, that's 52 things you fix in a year. And that's effectively how you keep moving forward. If you want to get more aggressive with it, you can. You can start to become more aggressive, and you can start to say, I want to get 6 things done in a week. And that's all it is. It's just about getting better. It's about looking at what you do, making it better, getting people in to help you make it better, and making sure that what you're doing works well. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and you can simply, this whole strategic plan can be directed straight to your life. You could investigate what you want to do with your life. Maybe a business you don't want to be in forever. But
what are you trying to say?
We'll leave it there. Well, at some stage you want to retire and enjoy the kids.
Not me, mate. I'll work forever. Go out with my boots on.
Like Buffett, you're still working at 90 or whatever. Still investing.
Exactly.
Okay, core offerings next week, and we'll keep going from there. See you later.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate.